and minutes.
Okay, well, let's start with the introduction of the committee members. And so just welcoming everyone here to the meeting, as Barbara did earlier. Taya posted the meeting protocols for everyone. The meeting's recorded, and then we can proceed with the roll call and introduction of committee members, the ones that can be heard. Andrew waving. Andrew Lastawicki, co-chair waving. I'm Suzanne Quint. I'm a committee member and a board member who is able to unmute and say hello.
Hi, my name is Candace Harrison, and I'm a member of the committee.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Hubbard Kamanan-Weary, and I'm a member of the board and the committee.
I'm Jennifer Melby. I'm a member of the committee.
I'm Lenny Levitin. I'm a member of the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Did we get everyone? Okay.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Oh, no sound. Okay. He can't unmute. Okay. Take a wave, Dwight. Dwight Smith, member of the committee and member of the board. So we will seek to do an approval of the agenda. I think this is by consensus, if I'm correct. So can I have a thumbs up if folks are comfortable with the agenda? Okay. Looks like we have a consensus there. And then, was there a question on the agenda? And just noting that we will have the change as Taya noted. Change in order. Approval of the minutes. Does anyone have changes to the minutes to bring forward here? Sounds like Barbara sent a few changes through. Any other changes to the minutes from the last meeting? Okay, and I think this is a consensus as well. Great. So we are moving on, and our first speaker is going to be Rebecca from play-ground.nyc. And Barbara, I wanted to give you the opportunity, if you want to give it a try, to see if you can come back on, since you've been working with Taya on setting up all these presentations. Any luck, Barbara?
Hi. Suzanne,
Good.
thank you. You want to continue? Or
No, why don't you go ahead, since you and Taya set up all the presentations, but I'll be on standby.
I appreciate it. Okay. I don't know how long this is going to last. Our first speaker this evening is Rebecca Faulkner, who's the executive director of Play-ground NYC, and as you may recall, she's been here before, and she has some exciting news, and you need to start saving your recyclables. Rebecca?
Thanks, Barbara. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be with you all again. Nice to see you all. I'm going to keep this brief, as I know you have a packed agenda, but I was really pleased that Barbara wanted to invite me back. For those of you who, very briefly, for those of you who weren't here for my presentation at the end of last year, I'm the director of Play-ground NYC. We're a non-profit play advocacy organization based in Brooklyn. We run pop-up play days. We have an adventure playground on Governor's Island, and we've been saving our pennies to do some engagement with Community Board too. We, after the last presentation, we went out to Commodore Barry Park, my staff and we had a look around, and we're really excited at the prospect of raising some funds to bring our staff out to run some pop-ups. Barbara's received a proposal from us. I'm really happy to say that we've raised enough money for 2 of these pop-up play days in April. That's what we'd like to do. We've submitted permit applications for the special event permit applications to Nancy in Parks for the dates are April the 10th and April the 17th, 2 Saturdays. Our pop-ups are 3 hours roughly in length. They include time for our staff to set up and break down We call it breakdown. We use a lot of loose parts, recycled materials. We bring a lot of fun things to the park for kids to do. So in essence, it will support and animate your lovely playground, which is already very well used, as we noticed, and also provide additional play provision for Farragut Housing, Ingersoll Housing, and some tenants groups, which I'm just in the process of reaching out to. So, and also hopefully some local schools can bring kids out. So we have 2 play days set up. We have permit applications submitted. And my big request tonight is to, if everybody has basement space to store some cardboard boxes, please do so. We utilize cardboard boxes, especially big ones. Kids love to make all sorts of things out of cardboard. We use a lot of crayons and fun things like that too, but cardboard is our #1 thing. It's very important that I tell you we'll be running these play days with COVID protocols in place. All of our work last year on open streets, doing work like this in Harlem and in Queens, we were obviously all masked. Hopefully most of our staff will have had the vaccine by April. And we have distancing measures and all sorts of protocols in place. I've shared our safety plan with Barbara, but the big ask is cardboard. And I'm happy to, with Barbara's support, figure out a way to store and for us to gather in our van your cardboard. And then I think the other issue is, and this is probably an issue with to discuss with Renee, who I've already been in touch with at Friends, is where we store these materials in the interim. So we know that there is, there's a week between these proposed play dates where potentially could we store these recycled materials. Hopefully that, cardboard boxes break down, so it's easy to do. So we're really excited. We will bring 3 staff members and volunteers. The last final thing I'd say about this is that we also, when I spoke to Nancy at Park, she was really excited about some potential data collecting opportunities with local residents. We're affiliated with the Children's Environments Research Group at CUNY, and we do a lot of data capturing of how parks are used by families, what they like less. All of this is helpful as you begin to think about new playground space, what's good and what's fun in a playground. So we will hopefully do some engagement at the same time while the kids are playing. This is an opportunity for us to capture data. And I know for parks, that's always useful information to have, and certainly for us as well. I don't want to talk too much. This was just an opportunity to tell you the good news, which is that we hopefully will get the permit. Still looks like it's under, it's being assessed. I can't remember what the exact terminology on the Parks Department website is, but essentially this is an opportunity if you have questions for me. Also, Barbara has my email address, so anyone can follow up with me. But, we're 2 months away from this now. And fingers crossed, with some spring weather, more vaccinations, we can offer more much needed play provision. These kids need to get out and have some fun. So.
Rebecca, I have a quick question. Oh, I forget. What is the age target?
Yes, it's a really good question. Thanks, Barbara. So this really is for the youngest kids as well. We can have all, our playground on Governor's Island skews slightly older, so for 6 and up, and that's partly because we have wood and we use tools. None of that is coming to our pop-ups. These are loose parts, materials, cardboard, and fun stuff, so the youngest kids can play. So really we can have 3-year-olds in there playing too. And the idea is that, and I've put this in our proposal, that we potentially use the basketball court, the smaller one. We can really do this pop-up play event at any place in the park that makes sense. So, we're willing to work with all of you and with Renee to think of the best location to set all these materials up and make something fun out of them. But yeah, for young kids too. We won't exclude toddlers. We'll encourage them.
We do have a question for you in the chat. Would you take wardrobe size cardboard boxes?
Yes, please. Refrigerator boxes, wardrobe size boxes. If you can make a space rocket out of a box, yeah, the bigger the better. I know that's an issue of storage. We will be bringing materials too, so that's part of the deal. But if you have big boxes, yes, please.
Suzanne?
Rebecca, I would suggest you connect with Wegmans.
Yes,
right
we'll
across
talk about this.
Oh, yeah, they're right across the street. They're going to be speaking at the meeting on Wednesday, at our community board meeting. So
Right. I was planning to talk to them on Wednesday if I raise the issue on Wednesday.
yeah, I mean, it feels like there's a source of boxes there, and also the Navy Yard in general, and the community associate there in terms of, I think, storing.
That's a really good idea too. And these are natural relationships that we'd like to foster. So usually at our pop-ups and on open streets, we work with local businesses. They're happy to provide, you know, all these boxes that they don't need anymore. And if they have a few weeks notice, they can begin to store them for us. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so I think those are two good partners to be working with. And then just something for us to think about. I wonder if maybe the Friends group is going to want to do some tabling there, you know, as you mentioned, Rebecca, you know, sort of side by side with your efforts, and if we might want to participate in that as a way to just build engagement in general for you know, for community board and parks specifically. And you know, we have time, Taya, Barbara, Andrew, you know, but I'd be, you know, I'd certainly be willing to staff that.
That's great. I think that's a great idea, and really we like to think of these events as collaborative. So the more of us working in partnership, the better. We'd love to have, you know, as I said, I've spoken to Renee and explained to her what these events look like. So hopefully we can all make something happen together.
It's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're excited.
That's great. All right. Before we continue, I just have quick things I want to say, just in case I lose my technology again. And again, thank you, Suzanne. And I hope I don't have to ask you to jump in again, but I might. First, I want to thank all the, first of all, Betty's on the line as well. I want to thank Betty and all my colleagues on the committee for coming out this Thursday for an extra meeting this month. I know it's a big ask because we're all so darn busy. So I want you to know how much I appreciate your being there. And I think it was a very valuable endeavor. And then I want to thank Taya for putting together tonight's meeting, reaching out to all of the different groups involved. I know that was a big ask as well. And I know it was a learning experience on some levels, but it still was a lot of work. And I think, Taya, this was your idea, this meeting. So thank you for that. Recall. So we're going to turn now to, speaking of Taya, again, she's put together this terrific presentation for us to see that kind of, she reached out to 15 community gardens. I think, you know, parks keep playing a larger and larger important role for us during the pandemic. And I think community gardens are equally as important. And I know people are always eager to get involved in them and walk past them and wonder, what's this all about? And why can't we have more spaces like that? So I think this should be an informative session about the community gardens. So I'm still not quite sure. We're going to show the presentation. Are we going to stop it as we go along? Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn that portion over to you, Taya. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Zoller-Gringer. So I think one of the very first Parks and Recs meetings of last year, there was a committee discussion desiring updates from some of the community gardens in the district and what their COVID operations were and what their needs might be in the coming year. So we thought that was a good opportunity to reach out to folks. You know, I help people share their presentations all the time, and then I have to share mine and I'm lost. Okay, can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to breeze through this very quickly. We have quite a few, I believe we have some representatives from the garden on the line. So please go ahead and find your mute and unmute button now, because what I'll do is I'll pause at each garden's page. And if there's a representative here that would like to say something, that is your opportunity to jump right in. So we'll go through these pretty quickly, and then Casey Alvey from the Parks Department will give a little more substance at the end. So we were happy to discover that there are 15 active community gardens in the district, and I believe Casey Alvey actually identified a few more that I didn't even find on my list. And we've separated them into sort of 3 chunks. The first group You'll notice that in the northern part of the district, there are only these 4. They all happen to be NYC Parks GreenThumb Gardens. And I do believe somebody from the Poplar Street Community Garden is here, yes?
Yes, hi.
Hi, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Cindy Goulder. I'm the lead gardener of the Poplar Street Community Garden, and I'm pleased to see that several of our members are here and also some good friends from GreenThumb. The Poplar Street Community Garden is a small garden on the little edge of land left over when the BQE's Cadman Plaza off-ramp was built. The highest privilege of membership in the garden is the combination to the lock at the garden's gate, allowing access at any time. In exchange, however, we commit to active participation in tending to the garden, the whole of it, and helping with its administration, and sharing it with others in a variety of ways. We call ourselves member gardeners, and each year there are between 18 and 24 of us. Other people join us for work days, training, special events, or big projects like clearing, shaping, and planting areas. We're hoping, by the way, to have more events for children in the coming year and maybe some citizen science projects. Some people, of course, just come to the garden to stroll around or sit and enjoy it. There are only 12 personal plots, not enough for all, but some are shared, and everyone who wants one is usually accommodated in some way. Some members, though, have no interest in a plot. There's plenty to get involved with otherwise. Our purpose, quite simply, is stewardship. The garden has an abundance of features, and our job is to tend to them all. Canopy trees, fruit trees, berry bushes, roses, traditional colorful ornamentals, woodland wildflowers, native pollinator plants, including cooking and medicinal herbs. There's also a 3-bin compost system, storage sheds, stonework, etc., that need care too. Each of us, member gardeners and visitors alike, engages hands-on with whatever is of personal interest and with an attitude of service. We share what we know and we learn from each other as well as from the garden itself. No experience is necessary. What's wonderful is that more and more skillfulness gets built every day, benefiting the garden as well as each other. We welcome new members. Just understand that member gardener membership does involve commitments. These are outlined in our membership policy, and we'll be glad to send it to you if interested and then meet with you. If this commitment is too great, however, there's still other ways to get involved, such as taking part in our work days the second Saturday of each month during the growing season. So you can email us about membership or about joining our mailing list to be kept informed of activities or to ask questions. And please do let us know if you have any requests or suggestions for more kinds of activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cindy. And I believe, Cindy, you mentioned that you were formerly a member of this committee at one point, yes?
Yes.
So welcome back.
Okay.
Okay, moving east. To Vinegar Hill. Is a representative from Vinegar Hill with us tonight? No. Okay, this is actually one of the newest gardens in our district. It's a pocket garden on the corner. They have an active partnership with their local public school. They have 10 raised vegetable beds and a really innovative rainwater harvesting system that I believe Chair Feibush may have visited as part of the YECA committee. But without a representative, we'll just keep moving east. There's the Bridge Plaza Community Garden. Is anyone here from that organization tonight? Okay, this is actually one of the older gardens, right after one of the newest ones. It looks like they have a live koi and fish pond. I was hoping for an update to see if that's been active this year. They also have an active partnership with their local public school. They do not do vegetable or fruit tending there, but they have cultivated seating and lawn areas. And then finally in this cluster, we have Ingersoll Community Garden, and I believe Ms. Boykin is here tonight, yes? Shaquana, I saw you on the chat earlier. I wonder if you're able to unmute.
I'm sorry, I'm new to this. Hi, everyone.
Oh, that's okay. Hello, welcome.
Welcome. Want to go to the slide?
Yes.
Sorry, let me get away from the teenagers. Okay, hi, everyone. Shaquana Boykin. I wear many hats. If you do not already know, I am your state committee woman and AB 57. but I also work closely with Ingersoll Garden of Eden. Ms. Tucker, who is the president, we went over the slide and just a couple things that she wanted you all to know about the garden. The garden had a 10-year anniversary in 2019. So it was opened up in 2009. And prior to this garden opening, it was a lot of organizing with the Tenant Association and Myrtle Avenue bid, and just people who lived in Ingersoll. Speeding up to 2019, after around the 10-year anniversary, the garden became a GreenThumb garden. And what Ms. Tucker wanted to say is that it was able to open up this space. A lot of people walk by the garden on Myrtle and it's like, wow, it's beautiful. So people are able to come in, they have hours, but right now the garden is closed for renovations. So what Ms. Tucker wanted you all to know is that they are getting some water. They're getting sprinklers, they're gonna get sprinklers. And so they haven't been doing anything during COVID-19. I asked her what's like the wishes for moving forward, and she's just like, she's waiting for the garden to open back up because they would really love just the space to just sit, even if they couldn't sit together. It's like huge, so people can sit around the garden. But that's their hopes. But it has over 120 residents who garden at this particular garden. And what's really I say amazing is that there's so many different cultures at this garden. So I'm able to learn, everyone else is able to learn. We have so many different master gardeners, I would like to say. And yes, that's it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Boykin. It's always good to have you at our meetings.
Of course.
Okay. So now we'll move down a little to the south of the district. We have these 3 gardens that are clustered here that are independent to the best of our knowledge. And if anyone's here from those gardens, maybe you can confirm that. The first is Hoyt Street Community Garden. Is anyone here from that organization?
I can speak for them.
Oh,
Hello.
Hi, is anyone else from Hoyt? I can speak to Hoyt Street if no one else is here from
That's
Hoyt.
perfect.
Okay, so I don't have all the details of the year it was established, but it's part of the land of a church that's adjacent to it. So the member gardens, it's run by the Hoyt Street Association and the Borough Hill Association. But they don't own the land. They're like stewards of it because the church owns it. And in the past, people, members of the community can request a key from the garden store across the street. And the rule is you keep the gate open when you're sitting there to welcome other people. People don't have garden spots. It's just, perennials, flowers, and so on. And what we've done in the past, we've had music events, we've had book giveaways to the community, and other types of events where we're using this space to build community with our neighbors.
Thank you so much, Chair Flybush. Next is the Wyckoff Bond Community Garden. Is anyone here from that one?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm afraid you have another Flybush here.
Perfect.
Yeah, I serve as president of the Wyckoff Bond Garden, which is on the intersection of Wyckoff and Bond Street in Borough Hill. It was established in 1979 on 4 building lots of houses, wood frame houses that burned in the 60s. The neighbors back then were able to actually secure ownership of all 4 of the building lots and establish a not-for-profit 501c3, WB Garden, Inc. And so we're very, very fortunate. We actually own the 4 lots that the garden is established on. and it was established in 1979. I've been involved with the garden for about the last 5 years, and it's an English-style perennial garden. We have one continuing founding member, Dave Locke, who really is the master horticulturalist who has planted and maintained the plantings, and there's always something blooming, even in the middle of winter. It's an amazing garden that has been praised by members of the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens for the exquisite plantings that are there. We have 65 active members. We have a 5-member board. The garden, we've had to scale back a lot of our public events over the last 5 years. We've had celebrations of Earth Day and Mother's Day and harvest festivals. But due to COVID restrictions, members have access to the garden. The gate is open when members are there. And we very recently had a 3-bin compost system built, which has been very, very popular for the community members and garden members since composting on a city level has been discontinued. I have to say our compost bins are probably the most popular part of the garden right now. But people are really enjoying the space. A lot of our members from Borough Hill don't have their own backyards. People have really been appreciating the opportunity to be in a green space during the COVID restrictions. And we're going to really try to do some more social distanced events this spring, particularly for Earth Day coming up. We're hoping, once the restrictions are lifted, we've done workshops for children, all on a green kind of theme in terms of understanding what some of the plantings are, understanding the life cycle of perennials, as well as artistic and music events. So it's really a lovely, very low impact type of garden. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Feibush. And finally, in that cluster, we have the North Pacific Community Garden. Is anyone here from North Pacific? No? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's Anjala. It's Anjala.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi. Thanks.
I thought you were here. Hello.
Hi. Thanks, Irene. Yeah, one of the other gardeners I thought was going to speak. My name's Anuja. I know several of the people on this call. Hello to everyone. And I'm part of the North Pacific Community, Friends of North Pacific Community Garden. The garden was founded in the late 70s thanks to the efforts of Reverend Paul Matson and local residents. There's a church located right on the corner. This was an abandoned lot that was converted into a city park, as well as a community garden. Which really, it serves a really unique purpose in that the playground equipment is specialized for young children ranging from the ages of maybe 6 months to 3 to 4 years. It's ideal for them. There's a lot of open space also for them to run around and do free play. So it's very unique, and people from neighboring communities come to this playground for that. The garden is located in the rear of the playground, which poses some challenges, but it houses a vegetable and flower garden, and has gotten very active in recent years. Our gardening season runs generally from April to November, and membership is open to anyone. And participation levels vary. Individuals can maintain a private plot or join us for community activities, which include monthly work days. One of the things that has occurred in recent years is we've gotten a very active friends group of roughly, I want to say, 25 members, and some of our events are hosting somewhere between 40 up to 100 individuals, which is insane. So it just depends on the day and the activity we're hosting, but we found that it's a really great way for neighbors to get to know each other in a very casual setting, and come out and maintain both the garden and the playground. COVID has limited the access we can give to the community, and it's been right now it's existing members, but we'll reevaluate that in the spring and see what we can do. The playground is open from 6 to 9 a.m., but the garden is locked. It's only open when there is a gardener there. And what was great is, unfortunately, due to COVID, we could not actually access the garden for the majority of 2020. We got in there sometime in late June when the planting season was over. But we were able to install a soaker hose system, which is great because now the garden is self-watering. And if anyone is interested in joining, I would say email us. It's open to anyone. And the more the merrier is our motto.
Thank you so much, Ms. Batala.
Is-
Next,
Wait. You forgot the David Fulger Garden.
oh, we're coming back to that.
Oh, never mind.
The next cluster of associated gardens are a trio that call
Could you
themselves
just put up the previous slide with the email address? Thanks.
Sure. That one?
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
No problem. These slides will be available on the district's public drive as well. This trio of gardens in the south central of our district, or south middle of our district, call themselves the Brooklyn Bears Community Gardens. I don't believe any representatives from these three gardens are at the
No,
meeting.
we are here.
Oh, you are here. Wonderful.
Yep.
Okay, let's
We
start
come
with.
bearing gardens.
Thank you. This
For
is
Brooklyn
Rockwell
Bears.
Community Garden. Who's here from Rockwell?
Not sure if anyone is. I can talk about it a little bit.
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, yay.
Great. And introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Deborah Garvin from the Three Bears Garden. We come bringing gardens. And I think I heard Ned. I don't really have anything to say. There are a lot of gardens. There are actually 1,000 gardens or more all over New York City. I was lucky enough to do some R&D with some of the people that are the original garden members, and I know a little bit about how they all came to be. They all came to be because they were havens of safety for like people that were older, that were coming from Latino and Southern farming backgrounds, and they cleaned up the lots, the empty lots, and they turned them into places of beauty, and they were places, safe havens for them. So that's where they all come from, and then they've evolved through gentrification, and I don't really know the history of the Three Bears Gardens. I'll leave that to Ned. But there's also one, you're missing the one on across the street from the park. It's called the Green Garden, and that I was a member of that one, and it was changed. And then there's a bigger network, the Brooklyn Queens Land Trust, which held a lot of gardens that were supposed to be open to perpetuity to anybody that wanted to enter them when the gates were open during garden season every summer. So, and from there, I'll let Ned take it on.
Oh,
Thank you. We are going to get to the BQ, the Brooklyn Queens Land Trust Gardens as well. So the next one on the list is the Pacific Street Community Garden.
Oh, okay. Well, we're all part of one thing, in a sense, the Brooklyn Bears. So the history is that Rockwell was started as a space that was actually used for people with mental behavioral issues. A social worker, I believe she was a psychiatric social worker, Renata, in the 80s, used the space just for kind of therapy. And I forget what it fell under at the time, but understand that it sits over tunnels for the MTA. The garden a good number of years ago was completely excavated down about 30 feet to subway tunnels. It was gone. And what you see now was part of the contract to, as part of that work, for the contractor to put everything back in place. And it got jazzed up a bit. Our garden, I'm mostly based at Carlton. We benefited from some of the ironwork that was on that job. As you can see, that ironwork, there was an extra Brooklyn Bears sign with iron letters cut out that made it to Carlton, and then between Velleman and Montgomery, and also our own pockets, we were able to finish out the iron fence and replace our chain link that we'd had for years. So that's our garden. That's the Carlton Garden, with the big mural against the nursing home. That's across from Kyler Gore Park. It was a building site which had been destroyed, and in the early 90s was being cleared out of its rubble and garbage. It was supported heavily by the group of people who had established the Pacific Street Garden, which was at the time the entire triangle where PC Richards is right now. People may be aware of, across from the arena. BAM, I believe, they allowed gardeners to use it. BAM got that property from the city, I believe, for $1 in the late 70s, or actually, I should say in the 80s. The bears are named after a teddy bear found on that lot. It was a perfectly good teddy bear in perfect shape that was put on the fence. And our garden here at Carlton that we're seeing took a lot of the plant material from Pacific Street when Forest City Ratner was able to push through having the Pacific Garden destroyed so they could supposedly stage the area to build PC Richards and Modell's, as you know, on that site there, which didn't need to happen, of course, but they got their way. In the process, they were obliged to recreate the garden, but it is smaller than it was originally. So a lot of our trees that you can see, the red Japanese maple, for example, is from Pacific Street from, I think, 1996. So the Carlton Garden of the Three Bears Gardens is the youngest. We're about 25 years or almost 30 years old now. And we're very active. All three gardens are extremely active in the community. Carlton is physically the largest garden, and I believe the largest garden in Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, which was part of the original group that started the Fort Greene Compost group at the farmers market years ago. And that became the project taken on by Grow.nyc when they started collecting compostables at all of the markets. So we were actually that project. We also have beehives as well and water cistern. Anything else anyone wants to know about our garden? You should come by and check it out.
Amazing history. Thank you.
We're really mellow, by the way.
Very mellow. That's the coolest thing about it. It's so mellow, and it's like you just wander into a place where you can just leave everything else behind. But what I wanted to say is we have this really sophisticated composting system going on now, where they're really churning some pretty cool, they're really doing some sophisticated work. So if it's ever opened, please stop by.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The final cluster are these 5 gardens that are owned and managed by the Brooklyn Queens Land Trust.
Can I add one thing? This is Anuja again. I'm also actually a member of the Pacific Bears Garden, and I just want to. There is a koi pond at the. It's actually a goldfish pond. It's not koi, and we do composting there as well and host a lot of activities. But I just want to give a shout out to the Bears Gardens because this year Rockwell Bears turns 40, Pacific turns 35, and Carlton Street turns 30.
Oh, that's right. I guess we turned 30.
Oh, wow. We're going up.
And thanks for mentioning that. And also note that Pacific Street, the Pacific Bears Garden has hosted the fall harvesting event, which is great for GreenThumb.
Yeah.
So twice, right?
I think annually, and also Much Music. We host that as well at the garden annually, among other things. But we've also there's a book, and it's actually the Brooklyn Public. We just put it in its top 10 children's book. It's called The Bears Garden, and it's actually about the Pacific Bears Garden.
I have it, how it started. It's a cute little story.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. I just got that for my son for Christmas.
Okay. Thank you very much to all of the Bears representatives. We need to move on to the BQLT. so that I can pass this agenda back to Chair Zoller-Gringer. Let's get through the last 5 gardens. Representatives, if you're here, please try to stick to the 2-minute limit. David Folk Community Garden. Actually, it's the David Folk Memorial Garden. Is anyone here from that one?
Yeah, it's Irene Van Slyke. David Fulker Garden was started about 1971. And I think in 1940, there were 2 very small buildings on that lot that already looked vacant and burned out. And by the late 60s, there was basically a parking lot there where people were repairing their cars. So the lot was cleaned out and it went through several different iterations. At first, people had vegetable gardens there, but they also planted about 7 trees. So over time, it became very, very shady. And right now, it's more a shady garden. It has a large sandbox that is very well used. And during this last year, a lot of people actually visited the garden because they live in small apartments and needed some fresh air. So we had new members coming in. There's also a composting operation. I just want to make people aware that the City Council is really interested in where new community gardens can be started. And since we heard about the community garden on Ingersoll, you know, the people in the Housing Authority really should suggest to the City Council that there's lots of space in the Housing Authority developments and that people want community gardens to grow some fruits and vegetables. Lastly, we planted about 800 bulbs. So next spring, walk by there and see, we hope it's gonna be all a bloom.
Thank you, Irene. It sounds like this year has been heavier on work days than planting. A lot of us weren't able to get into the gardens until June.
Yeah.
Okay, here's Green. Is anyone here from Green Community Garden?
I saw Kate Gehring.
Yeah, I thought she was here for a minute. Kate also had another meeting, so I hope she was able to stay with us. If not,
I could quickly talk about it.
You know, I would like to say something about that one because I was once the steward, and it was a great community garden, but gentrification ran us out, and we can't really talk about it. But I'd like to dedicate it to. We all wanted it to go to Agnes Green. Agnes Green was one of the instrumental people that actually wrote the bylaws to create the Brooklyn Queens Land Trust. And I would like to say that she's gone now, and if her, you know, she's gone, but she loved Green Garden. Her name was Agnes Green. She's a wonderful person. And it's Black History Month, and that's some Black history that's not written. You're getting it straight from the source. And there are other people, you know, that are that were members of Green Garden too. You know, I'll have to say, you know, Mark and Hiawatha, they were also, we were kicked out and we were used as a gentrification seed to help to divide the community, but it doesn't work. And, you know, also Agnes started the jazz in the gardens for the Brooklyn Queens Land Trust. So I'm just giving you all the history and letting you know, and I'm doing it with emotion. It's Black History Month, hey, and that's some good Black history for you. And I'm giving it to you with love, and I'm gonna sign off now. And she can take it over for Green Garden. But
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm actually really, I think that's great to know that there was a person named Green. I think most of us assumed that was named after Fort Greene Park.
No, that's true.
Hollenbach Community Garden. Is anyone here from Hollenbach?
I'm not sure, but
I will say this was one of the few gardens that I noticed that was doing a fair amount of programming outside of the garden.
Yeah, Hollenbach has, I think when last summer, they were giving away the produce from their garden on the street.
That's right.
Apparently a lot of people came in who needed fresh vegetables. So if I can just give a little bit of a history about Brooklyn Queen Land Trust.
Could we, if we could hold that maybe for the end of this section because
Okay.
this is running a bit longer than we expected already.
All right.
And I think these are, let's see, is the last two, Clifton Place Community Garden in Clinton Hill and Classen Fulgate Community Garden, just on the edge of the district. Classen is the border of our district.
Yeah.
So with that, I just found it very interesting to look at the map. And I think Casey Alvey might have some more to say about this, but if you look at this map, there's a lot of density of community gardens in some parts of the district and quite a few open spaces where it would be possible to maybe start seeding somewhere. So that sort of takes us into the next part of this community garden discussion. Please don't worry about grabbing all of these resources now. The one that you should bookmark is tiny.cc/ko2public. That is our public drive where you can find all of these resources listed, as well as this slideshow. Thank you for your patience, Chair Zoller-Gringer.
Thank you, Taya. That was wonderful. And thank you to all the presenters. I just wanted to remind you that now you're here, we want to see you again. Please don't be strangers. We're very much interested in what you have to say, and hopefully you'd be interested in our meetings. And we'd love to get updates now that we've sort of reacquainted with some of you and met some of you for the first time. And, you know, I think the gardens are just as important as the parks and the playgrounds. It all works together. And as so many of you mentioned, especially this past year, I think all of us have realized just how important these green spaces are to our mental and physical well-being. So with that, we're going to turn this over to Casey Alvey, who is the Senior Outreach Coordinator for Brooklyn and Queens for the New York City Parks Department, GreenThumb, which gives a lot of support and training to these gardens. So Casey, thank you so much for being here.
Sounds great. Thank you all so much for being here as well, and thank you for convening this discussion. I'll go ahead and share my screen then. Let me just see. Can you all see that? Okay, great. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to bring everyone together because there are so many community gardens in this part of Brooklyn and citywide. So it's really exciting to just kind of hear more about all the different types of programs that community gardens run and to really spotlight the amazing work that community gardeners do. So my name is Casey Alvey. I'm a Senior Outreach Coordinator for Community Gardens in Brooklyn and Queens. I directly work with community gardens in a few different neighborhoods. We kind of operate by community board. So I work with community gardens from Greenpoint through Sunset Park, all along the Brooklyn waterfront. And I'll give an overview of GreenThumb Community Gardens, as well as an overview of some resources and GreenThumb's public programs. And I can share a couple highlights of Brooklyn Community Board 2 gardens, and then some information about how members of the public can get involved in community gardening. So as we mentioned, there are over 550 community gardens citywide registered with GreenThumb. And this includes a variety of jurisdictions. The vast majority of gardens registered with GreenThumb are now on parks property, but there are also other public agencies that have community gardens, some nonprofit land trusts, including the Brooklyn Queens Land Trust that we mentioned, the Brooklyn Alliance of Neighborhood Gardens, as well as some private lots that are registered with GreenThumb. So it's a really wide network and diverse network of community gardens that also really range in their missions and operations. So some community gardens are really focused on food production and operate more like urban farms. And other gardens are more like green spaces and sitting gardens, and others are a real mix of the two, or spaces for events and cultural programming. So I will just show you a couple examples and photos of community gardens. Can you see my slides okay there? Sorry. All right, great. And yeah, so community gardens are public spaces that are really stewarded by community residents who turn these spaces into community assets So as some of the other speakers mentioned before, many community gardens were founded on vacant lots, and they took years to clear out rubble and debris and turn these into beautiful spaces to grow food and to beautify neighborhoods. And there are a wide variety of missions. Again, some for food production, education, sustainability, and they really reflect the diversity of New York City's neighborhoods. It's important to understand the history of community gardens. So as many neighborhoods, in predominantly Black and brown neighborhoods in New York City in the height of the fiscal crisis in the 1970s were facing disinvestment, there were thousands of vacant lots scattered throughout the city. And out of that emerged an effort, a bottom-up effort for residents in majority Black and brown neighborhoods to take ownership over these lots and to beautify them and to turn them into important spaces for their communities. So you can see over time the transformation. This is a community garden in Brooklyn Community Board 6, some old Polaroid shots, I think from the early 90s. And then over the years, residents took the lead in cleaning up and building raised beds to grow food. And this is more of what the space looks like today. And GreenThumb's model is a framework we use. We have a license agreement that gardens on parks property can sign that outline responsibilities from both the city and from the community groups that steward the space. But essentially, we support community gardens to take the lead in stewarding these spaces. So we have a 4-year license agreement that outlines the model of stewardship, and GreenThumb provides technical assistance, material support, and property management assistance to community gardens. But from there, community gardens really take the lead in determining what their operations will look like, their decision-making structure, and many of them create bylaws that outline their group decision-making processes and what membership entails, because for some community garden groups, membership means having a plot in the garden, and for others, there's a lot of different ways to get involved in community gardens. So we exist basically to provide the material support for community gardens, as well as the group development, capacity building, and programmatic support to community gardens. This just briefly goes over some of the basic requirements of being a registered GreenThumb garden. And that's an important part of that is being open to the public and having pathways for members of the public to get involved in community gardens. So whether that's stopping by during open hours to enjoy the community garden or to become a member and having a plot, there's a wide range of ways to participate and enjoy community gardens. And so that's why it's important for, despite all the flexibility that community gardens have, if they also have these basic requirements to make sure that they are open and accessible and inclusive spaces. So in normal times, again, this past season, nothing was normal for anyone with COVID, but in normal years, we have community gardens that are open to the public, a minimum of 20 hours per week, and host 2 free community events per year, and ensure that the spaces are accessible. So I'll also just go over briefly some of the types of support and resources that GreenThumb provides to community gardens. And that includes support with garden rebuilds or reactivations of sites that either have kind of fallen into disrepair or newly acquired sites for GreenThumb's network. So this is an example of our visioning program where one of my colleagues supports garden groups to outline their what they'd like to see for the space and help create a map, and then move through with our operations team in helping community garden groups to actually physically build out the site. And that's a mix with either working with volunteer groups or organizational partners like Grow NYC, or with our operations team staff that will help with different parts of the rebuild. So sometimes it's involved with helping to level sites to make sure that they're even, and then building raised beds to grow healthy food, and creating event spaces, etc. And then other pieces of GreenThumb's programming include our a number of annual events that we host that are open to the public in normal years. So that includes our annual conference, the GreenThumb Grow Together, which is a way to kick off the season, and typically with over 1,000 community gardeners and members of the public and greening partners citywide, which is a really fun event. This year that'll be virtual for a week-long celebration from Saturday, February 20th to Saturday, February 27th. So I'll include some more information at the end of the presentation about that. We also have annual supply distribution, so you can see some tools being distributed. That is our spring and winter supply distributions. We also provide bulk materials to registered gardens year-round, and that includes soil, lumber, compost, mulch, wood chips to gardens based on need. So those are some of our standard materials that we provide, and we also are able to provide tools and other supplies at these distribution events. We've been doing direct deliveries in COVID to community gardens. We also host workshops that are open to the public, and during COVID, we've been having virtual programs on a variety of community gardening topics. And then other public events, including the GreenThumb Harvest Fair each year, which the Brooklyn Bears Pacific Street Garden has been hosting, as well as Open Garden Day, which is an annual celebration of community gardens citywide that choose to open their gates and offer a variety of programs and events for members of the public themselves, which has been a lot of fun. So that's a little bit about GreenThumb's programs. We've also hosted a meet and greet for community garden leaders to get to know each other. So this was a couple of different borough-wide events we had in recent years for community gardeners to get to know each other, swap strategies, and learn and share best practices, and really, inspire and encourage each other around, what it means to run a community garden. And so in terms of Brooklyn Community Board 2, I'll keep this part brief because I think we've gotten a really good overview of the community gardens in the district. There are 12 community gardens that are registered with GreenThumb, and that's on sites that are both public and nonprofit land. There are several that are New York City Parks jurisdiction, one Department of Transportation, one New York Restoration Project, and a handful that are Brooklyn Queens Land Trust and the Brooklyn Alliance of Neighborhood Gardens. So those are all nonprofit land trusts that operate very similarly to GreenThumb and are registered with GreenThumb, but are private nonprofit land. And so you can go to our website to see the full map. You can type in your address or your zip code to find a community garden that's nearest to you. So we've seen a number of beautiful photos of community gardens in the district. So here's just a snapshot from Brooklyn Bears Carlton Avenue Garden. And actually this past summer, we were able to do a virtual streaming event of Open Garden Day with a musical performance safely in the garden. So we really appreciate partnering with the Brooklyn Bears Carlton Avenue Garden, Brooklyn Bears Rockwell Garden. Here's a photo from an Open Garden Day event a couple years ago. They have a really strong team and a beautiful site there. And again, here's some images from the Harvest Fair at Brooklyn Bears Pacific Street Garden a couple years ago. And that's included our annual recognition awards and Fresh Chef competition. So it's a really fun event. We look forward to being able to do this in person again, hopefully sooner than later. And some more images of Vinegar Hill Community Garden. They also grow food, have beehives, rainwater harvesting. And Brooklyn's Finest Garden is a little bit of a smaller garden, but also a beautiful space. And residents work to reactivate this space in the last couple of years. So here's some members at a work day. And it's a beautiful sitting garden, as well as has a handful of raised beds for vegetable growing. Class and Fulgate Block Association Garden, they did a big rebuild of their site in the past year or two. So you can see the transformation above and below. This was kind of in process as they were cleaning out and rebuilding the garden. And with material support, the gardeners took the lead in planning and redesigning the garden. So you can see kind of the after shots there. Poplar Street Garden, glad to have Cindy with us, a number of other members of Poplar Street Garden, a beautiful space. So you can see more of the images of their site there. And then a couple of photos here of Bridge Plaza Community Garden, which is a New York restoration project garden and more of a sitting space. Beautiful shots of spring. So look forward to spring shortly. And again, Brooklyn Queens Land Trust is a really important partner with Brooklyn and Queens Community Gardens with GreenThumb too. So they also host an annual celebration of gardens. So that's an image from a couple of years ago. And just wanted to mention that there are a number of ways that members of the public can get involved in community gardens. Even in these difficult times, we are hosting a virtual event on Wednesday, February 17th. So that's next Wednesday, the 17th. So on the top left-hand corner, that's an image from our Instagram. It's a good way to find out about upcoming events at GreenThumb Grows. So you can register for the event. It's Wednesday, February 17th from 5:30 to 7, and that'll be a panel of community leaders who will be talking about their community gardens citywide and ways that members of the public can get involved. So it's really geared to people who've not been involved in the garden and really want to know what they're all about. And again, since every community garden operates a little differently, they'll be explaining their membership models, what it means to become a member of the garden, and how to do that. We also have, as I mentioned, a week-long virtual conference. It'll be lunchtimes and evenings, and it's all free on Saturday, February 20th through Saturday, February 27th. And Saudea Brownlee from Brooklyn Queens Land Trust will be our keynote speaker. We'll have a variety of workshops virtually on, growing vegetables, herbalism, climate resiliency, racial justice, community organizing, climate change, like I said that, and a variety of topics relevant for community gardeners and, aspiring green thumbs. So it'll be a really fun, full week of programming. And I should also mention that all of our recordings from our workshops that we've had over the past year virtually are available online on our website. So that's a really good way to learn about all sorts of community gardening topics. So that is available for free on our website, all of our recordings and toolkits related to community gardening and growing food, whether that's in your windowsill or in a community garden plot of your own. And you can contact me if you want to be connected with a community garden leader. If someone's not already on the call here, I'm happy to send you an introduction to the volunteers who are the stewards and leaders of community gardens in your neighborhood. So again, a nice way to get to know people in the community garden is just to stop by when the open hours are posted. We also have more information about safety protocols for COVID on our website, so please do be mindful of that. But to get a chance to explore your neighborhood, see which community gardens may be of interest to you, and introduce yourself, and also, again, visit our website. And every community garden is different, so we look forward to sharing some of the benefits of community gardening with you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much for that
Thank
presentation.
you.
For sure.
It's really great. So we'll start with committee members with questions for any of our presenters. Any of our committee members have questions? Okay. Any community board members have questions? Oh, Carolyn, you just need to unmute.
Yes, I had a question about the green garden on DeKalb and South Portland. I don't know if the woman who spoke about the history of it mentioned that there was something going on because of the gentrification, and I know that's a very valuable property now. I wanted to understand why it's not an active garden.
It is an active garden.
I'm here, but I don't want to, discuss that. Okay, But if you'd like to know the answer, it's still a community garden because it's liquid, you know, it's land locked under the landlocked law that we have. It's a community garden for the community, and somebody has the keys to it, and somebody's a steward of it. And but I was locked out, and I was never allowed to come back. There were 3 or 4 of us locked out. We were never allowed to come back. The rules were changed on us, you know. And but it still is a community garden. You just need to find the steward. And I know that they open it up, and I know that there's somebody that is taking care of it, but they didn't have the knowledge that, you know, we had, because we had, I understand the knowledge of the BQLT organization because of Agnes. There were horticulturists involved, the people that really study environments. And that's a sitting garden, a shaded tree garden that, you know, needed a particular type of study, a plant, and we were in the midst of all of that, and then we got locked out. So, and there are other reasons why we got locked out too that are too political to discuss here, but it still is a community garden. And if you're interested, I think I see you. You're the lady with the books. That's my, I love books too. Yes, I love to talk to you about it in person if you'd like to just talk about it, because it's too political to actually discuss here, but it's open. And if you talk to Miss Van Slyke, I'm sure there's an administrator. There's probably somebody that's supposed to be caregiver to all of BQLT gardens that would allow you entry, because wherever you live, there used to be 35 to 40 of them. You have access to one. They're in Queens. There were like 4 or 5 in Queens, and you know there were like 30 here in Brooklyn. So they are all still active as far as I know, and you should just be able to go to their organization, their website, bqlt.org, and get access to them. That's what it was supposed to be. And I did research and development, you know, for Agnes, that was never published, and it was turned over to Hunter College to do, and they didn't do as good of a job as I did, and my data was never published, and I still have it. And if you ever want to see it, you know, we can get together and discuss it.
Well, it's just that I've noticed it seems to be neglected.
It is neglected.
And I remember when I live within walking distance. I remember when they used to have the jazz concerts there.
Yes, we were just starting that. That was like the first, you know, we were opening up to the community, and there were some, you know, overzealousness, you know, maybe, but it was because of the change of the gentrification on the neighborhood, because the artistic culture, you know, the Underground Railroad ran through here, and the artistic culture that developed here is simmered, and it's kept quiet, and it's a multi-disciplined, multicultural, multiracial. It's really a melting pot, and it's a sweet little melting pot that was always a secret. But then once it was discovered, it was kind of destroyed, and then like you couldn't listen to music, you know, you couldn't really have your art, and that was starting to happen. And you know, we were the seeds that they could use to close it, and they closed it. And but there were some things beginning to happen there again, you know, but there's a lot of controversy around that space. But it was one of the original spaces where people from the community came to pick up pieces and start something and build. And there were people that were there that stayed through the drug trade and all of that, and they had that community garden. There was a historical Black tennis club that existed on the property now of some of the commons, Atlantic Commons area, and they were all connected to Fort Greene Park. There's a real strong, you know, rich African American history here. There's a lot of it, you know, and we all live it. Those of us that live here in the community. And yeah, it was beginning to be open to the community, and music was happening, but then, you know, the force of gentrification just didn't want it to happen. And when the forces are too strong, you know, you give up. So hopefully when it reopens, or if you find out, you know, who has the keys, because that's, once you find out who has the keys, maybe Miss Van Slyke can tell you who has the keys. And if you live around here, especially there at the DeKalb, South Portland, it was one of the best gardens to go to too, because tourists from all over the world used to come there. So she asked me a question. Until you tell me to stop, I'm gonna keep giving her history. But like I said, she can call me.
We don't want to monopolize the meeting. I'll try to.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd love to reach out to you.
Carolyn, thank you for the question, and Deborah, thank you for your response. Any other questions from community board members? Betty?
Yes. Hi, thank you, Barbara. I just wanted to make a brief comment that school gardens in many of our schools are, in a way, they're community gardens in that parents and other volunteers can work the garden. The schools, as you know, have had a lot of challenges this year, opening, closing, et cetera, in the COVID times. We created an organization in District 15, and then District 13 followed. It's called the Garden Train, and we share resources with other schools. We work with Grow NYC for support, for grants. We share a lot of information, and I see school gardens as part of the broader notion of community gardens.
So I had a question. Thank you for that, for sharing that, Betty. I had a question, Casey. Community garden, that's a term of art. And how would you define it?
In terms of defining what community garden means? Yeah, I would say they are community stewarded green spaces that have a variety of uses. For the purposes of the presentation I gave, I focused on registered GreenThumb gardens, but as you know, we learned earlier, there's also a number of other gardens that are not registered with GreenThumb. There's also a wide network of school gardens. So there are, I can also put some resources in the chat related to Grow NYC's Grow to Learn program. So there are many types of communal growing spaces for food and community stewardship of land.
Okay, thank you. We're going to turn now to members of the community who might have questions. If you raise your hand literally or put a question in the chat. I can't see everybody at once, but most of you do not have your videos on. So
Can I ask a question about the program on February 17, if Casey can put that in the chat?
Yes, I will do that. That's we have all of our upcoming programs on our event page on our website. So that's always a good place to check for upcoming virtual events. So I will put that in the chat for you, because we're continuously updating it.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have a question? Any of our presenters?
I had a question I put in the chat earlier. It's for Casey. Is it possible for a garden situated on New York City Parks property to become a green thumb garden? It's something we looked into and we were told no, but your presentation seems to imply that there is a possibility of becoming one, even if you're on Parks property.
So that is a good question, and I can take your contact info so we could discuss further. Essentially, there is a distinction between community gardens that are on parkland, which is a legal term, versus under the jurisdiction of the Parks Department, that many of which were formerly abandoned lots that were transferred to the Parks Department. So there's a slight distinction between that, and I believe we would just have to talk further. And my colleague who is in touch with Parks Planning could be able to further advise on that. But I think we primarily work with community gardens on Parks property that is outside of parkland.
Okay, okay, that's the clarification I got earlier, I remember. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, again, I want to thank all of our presenters. I think this was a great look into some of the gardens if you haven't seen them or walked past them. And I trust that when you do walk past one of these gardens now, you will look at it from a different perspective, knowing what's behind it and how much work people put in and their ideas for those spaces. And again, please, those of you who are here tonight for the first time or haven't been here in a long time, now now that we've heard about your garden, we want to hear more about it. So please come back. We're always looking for additional participants and additional members of our committee. Now, I have a feeling you've already approved the minutes when I had a problem. Okay, great. So we're going to move on. I don't have any additional things to report tonight. Again, I wanted to thank everyone for last week's special meeting. Excuse me. And does anybody have any other committee business they want to raise tonight? Taya, did you?
Just a reminder that Joy Gutierrez is here from a different
Oh,
section
I'm
of the
so
Parks Department.
sorry.
That's
You're
okay.
right. Okay. I apologize because I hadn't been focusing on it. All right. So thank you for making that point, Taya. Is Joy Gutierrez here?
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, hi. Welcome, Joy. And
Thank you.
is it Eunice Shahal with you?
Eunice. Yeah, I did not see him, but I
Okay.
am joined by my colleague, Andrew Coppola, who's also with Parks.
Okay, great. All right. We're eager to hear what you have to say. And I apologize, Joy.
No worries. Thank you for having us and adding us to the agenda. Okay. So my name is Joy Gutierrez. I am an architect with the Revenue Division at New York City Parks. And this evening I'd like to present, let me make sure the controls are working. Okay, great. I'd like to present a project that is located at adjacent to Borough Hall, and it's at the south end of Columbus Park. So this is on Girolamo and adjacent to Adams Street or Brooklyn Bridge Boulevard. And this is for a kiosk that is already there. It exists. And through the Revenue Division, we have a licensee. We operate license agreements where concessionaires can operate their business, and in exchange for fees shared with the city, they basically provide revenue to the city. And so here is the proposed site, entrance to Brooklyn Borough Hall. Here's the municipal building. And then right now, these are the existing photos of the site. And this is the existing kiosk. It was previously a shoe shine stand and a news stand, two separate ones, and then they were combined and turned into a food facility. These are some more views. You can see the driveway adjacent to Borough Hall, and this is looking towards Adams. So there's a lot of passersby to, of course, this area. These are the city bike racks. And this is a preview of the new kiosk. So previously we did have Nuchos there, and they have closed for business at that location. And so we are transferring this license agreement to an entity called a German Doner Kebab. And they have several locations. They were started in Germany, and they have several locations in the UK, and they've opened up a few in Canada, Ottawa, Vancouver. And I was hoping Eunice would be here so he could talk a little bit about their menu, but basically they offer like high quality kebabs that use like fresh ingredients. And it's supposed to be very popular. So they would like to launch this food concept here at this location. And here is a plan of the kiosk. So as I mentioned, it's at the south end of the park, and it's just running parallel to the edge of the sidewalk. You can see this red. I don't know if can you see my cursor? You can. Okay, great. This red dashed line is the existing kiosk, and then this is the proposed size of the new kiosk. And so part of their contract is they have to provide a brand new kiosk that's conducive to food service. Okay, and this is a closer up view. So the employees would be entering through a door here on the west side. This is the food prep area. This is the kitchen, cook line space, and then a serving counter. And they will only have counter seating along the exterior. And then at night, a roll down grill along this edge would close down the kiosk. And then at the back, we have this little sort of louvered fence that encloses the trash storage. Again, the plan. We've also provided a combination of lower seating and then high top seating here, ADA accessibility at the counter and at the seats. So the idea is that primarily this food would be grab and go. And here's a front view of that seating. And this is the context view of the kiosk. You can see Brooklyn Borough Hall at the back. The materials that are being proposed are a black corrugated steel siding, a kind of gray quartz top that could be durable and cleaned easily. At the underside of the roof, it's orange metal slats, and that color of orange goes along with their branding and to add a splash of color. And then at this service counter, the roll-up grills are basically concealed in this this wall above, and that's where they would roll down. And then here's some wired glass windows. Oops, sorry. And these are the elevations. So I wanted to point out that this is what would enclose the trash area, and like any of our food concessions, they would have a what do they call those? A trash collector, a private trash collector that would come every day to collect that. So this is really something that was requested by our operations to keep everything sort of, you know, out of sight and away from view. And then the other thing to note is the roof is a standing seam zinc roof, and that's, you know, for maintenance and durability. This is the back view. This is a section just showing the height relative to the surrounding buildings. So this across the street is the Brooklyn Law School. And so the height of the kiosk is about 11 feet. And these are some of the materials that we're using. Again, the black corrugated steel, the underside of the ceiling, the gray quartzite top, the black tile at the interior of the kitchen. This is what will enclose the trash storage, painted black. This is the zinc roof. Again, that view, if you're standing in the street. And this is the rear view if you're standing in the walkway going north. And again, the view within the context of Borough Hall and Columbus Park. And that's it. So
I think this looks terrific. It's very snazzy and sort of goes along with the park. You know, I think it's going to be a real positive addition to the space there. Do you know how long their contract is for this?
I think Andrew can answer to that. I believe it's until 2032, Andrew, is that right?
Yeah. Hi, this is Andrew. I'm the senior project manager for revenue. So it expires in April of 2030.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have questions from members of the committee? Andrew? Yep. Okay. Unmute. Yeah.
Let me try. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any possibility to give them more space for seating on the edges, like a few tables? Because it's a pain in the ass to grab food and just eat it standing up.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's something we had requested. That's something we can go back and request again, but we were told that they wanted us to keep our footprint and our area of operation just to this zone. And then when we brought this, the other thing I forgot to mention is we brought this to the Public Design Commission and received conceptual approval. But one of their concerns was not having tables and chairs in the right of way for the pedestrians. So the operator here has decided just to keep that counter seating. But whether we could, put tables and chairs on the lawn, respecting the tree root zones, that's something we would have to go back and ask again.
But I was looking at the east end of it and the west end of it on the sides of the kiosk. It looks like there would be a room for maybe at least 2 tables or 4 tables altogether, or maybe 5 on either end.
Yeah, well, that's definitely something we could do, and we could just propose that to PDC and make sure that they'd be okay with that. It's a good suggestion. It's a lovely spot to sit at.
Yeah.
Carolyn, did you have a question? Are you still on mute?
Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Gutierrez, it looks to me like this is much larger than the former newsstand. Could you close that door? Than the former newsstand. And so I'm wondering the footprint, how much does it extend into the sidewalk? Because that's a very busy sidewalk during the spring and summer, especially, but
Right.
it's busy all the time. How
Yeah.
much? What is the footage from the end of where the seating is to the curb?
Right. So that's a great question. That was also a concern from the Public Design Commission. So we actually turned the kiosk a little bit so that it could be as far away from the edge of the curb. And right now there would be, with this new kiosk, there would be 14 feet from the outermost edge to the edge of the sidewalk.
And so it would be a little less because there's seating in front of the edge of the building.
Well, if you like, we could go back to the plan and I could show you, because it's sort of like there's a pinch point, and okay. Great. Okay. Yeah, so right here is where I'm talking about. So it's actually, it is 12 feet to the edge of that counter. And then
We
because
can't
of the,
see your screen if you were
Oh.
referring to it, Joy.
Sorry, I didn't do the actual share screen. Here. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Could you
Okay, great.
zoom in a bit, Joy?
Yeah, do that. Okay, is that better? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, you can see how the way the kiosk is situated. So right here, it's 12 feet. So from the edge of the sidewalk to the edge of the counter. And then it kind of opens up, you know, and it goes to 18 feet here. It's almost like a cone. So I don't know if that answers your question, Caroline.
It does.
Okay.
It does. I have one other question. Is this building going to have water service?
Yes, that is a requirement of DOH-MH to have running water, you know, among other,
Sanitary reasons, yeah.
yeah. And then the other thing I should note is that there is not an employee restroom, and we are obtaining a variance from DOH to use the restroom at the law school and Borough Hall, which is what was previously done in the former operator in the new Chus food kiosk.
Thank you. Any other committee members who have questions? All right. I don't see anybody. Any community board members with questions?
I see Ms. Quint's hand.
Oh, thank you. I didn't see her. All right.
I had, I think, the opposite concern of Andrew, more aligned with Carolyn in terms of just, you know, space. And can you, because also it looks like this might be their first location opening in the US. I just was Googling around quickly.
Yeah, I think they might have a small kiosk at Times Square, but I'm not sure if that had already happened or it's just still in the works.
Yeah, I did. In a quick Google, I couldn't find, but
Okay.
and I mean, I wonder, you know, who knows if this is like the next Shake Shack, and then before you know it, it's, you know, it's throngs of people there, you know, waiting for jobs and etc. So if you could just clarify the square, I am clear of the clearance of the sidewalk now. Clarify the square footage of the kiosk for doner kebab versus for the prior concession. You might have said it, but I
Okay.
think I missed it.
Right. So the new kiosk is about 285 square feet. And then the previous one, I'll have to get that number for you. Yeah, I don't have the dimensions in front of me, but it's probably about half of that.
Oh,
I guess one thing to know is that one of the feedback we received from Nuchos was that the size of that, those two kiosks put together for an old use, was not conducive for their food operation.
Thank you.
I didn't capture. I didn't quite the size. It's a fair amount bigger, possibly double from the prior food concession, but versus before food concession were the two separate concessions. The shoe repair and the newsstand.
Right, and that was combined into the one kiosk. And one of the feedback we received from Nuchos was that it was not conducive to food operation. Not conducive to food operation.
Yeah, so they needed some extra accommodations and possibly space to make it conducive.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone from the community board with a question?
I think there are several of us.
Oh, okay. I don't see everybody, so if someone wants to start.
Well, people have their hands up. I have my hand up.
To be clear,
These are, again, community board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Members.
Terribly sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Because that's just the order in which we go.
No problem, of course.
Hey,
It's just the word community is used everywhere. We start to get confused what community we're talking about.
I know you're a community gardener.
Community member. I've heard community member, community gardener, and community board, and it's confusing.
All right, let's just it'll be fine. Everyone,
There's Oliver Gringer. I do not see any additional hands from any members
Thank
of
you,
the community
Taya.
board. No problem.
All right, so Ned, then you have the floor.
Oh goodness, the electronic floor.
Yes.
Question. And I think a number of us have this question. What was the process to give this space to Doner Kebab? I have eaten at Doner Kebab in Berlin.
Oh.
I can't say they have the healthiest food choices. I'll point that out, but whatever, it's tasty enough. What about local businesses, for example, that are often pushed? Why can't Doner Kebab get a storefront? Why not? Anyway, that's one question. Also, what's going on with the runoff from the roof? I assume there'll be a gutter at the back to carry it off. Where does that runoff go?
Let's start with those two questions. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
I'll start with the second question, and then Andrew can jump in for the first. But the rain does shed to the grass at the rear. We originally did have a gutter, and that was shot down by PDC. So we just had to make sure that the pitch and the amount of runoff is okay, which it is to the grass at the back.
But the garbage enclosure is under that edge of the roof in the back, number one.
No, it's going to the other corner.
So there will actually be some sort of way to channel the water to one corner?
Yes.
Okay. And now normally the water off of the sidewalk runs to, of course, the gutter in a sense, to the storm sewer. So that'll be kind of a new thing. Okay. Has the soil been tested where that runoff would actually happen so that we don't have some sort of water issue going on and the walkway or whatever running off in storms?
Well, I mean, this was reviewed by our chief of design with landscape architecture, and she was confident that the amount of runoff would be okay
Okay.
at the site,
We
and
do
that,
have these
you know,
bigger storms now, yeah, and we know what the.
yeah.
In fact, if this were in Berlin, they would do better environmental study for placement of anything even this small, to be honest, having known about it. But you might want to check into that and revisit it because there may be some issues that you're not expecting. A lot of that soil is extremely compacted, especially around that area.
Okay.
I will
Thank
say
you.
that the design is kicky and it fits in with their corporate image, but it's also kind of ugly in that placement against Borough Hall, to be honest. I don't think aesthetically it's that pleasing, but we'll see what happens when it goes up, since obviously it's kind of a done deal. But it's not exactly going to be that gorgeous with Borough Hall right behind it.
Carolyn, did you have another question?
Well, I think it was Ned. He had a question as far as awarding.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
how
Okay.
exactly does that work? Because they're just
Yeah,
as Suzanne was saying, it's kind of their first thing going on here in the U.S. Why Doner Kebab and not another New
right.
York
So
business, for example?
sure. So we were approached in 2019 by the former operator, Nuchas, who were the ones who were given we were awarded the license agreement. They made a business decision that they could no longer continue at that location, and they proposed the German doner kebab. Um, I don't know if if the prior operator had any personal knowledge with GDK, but Parks did meet with them. We did our background checks, which is typical, financial and all that kind of stuff. Um, and pursuant to Nutras's license agreement with the city, they went ahead and did an assignment agreement and assigned the license to this new company. So that's the process to how this is quote unquote awarded to this new company, although Nutras was formally awarded through an RFP in 2017,
Oh,
2018.
so is this actually a franchise operation?
As far as GDK, it seems like they are a franchise and they want to branch out into in the States. I believe, like Joy said, they already are operating in Canada. So they have a foothold in North America, and this would be, I believe, their first one in the US.
Okay, and can I just go back to Joy real quickly? As we've often seen, and I think this was a concern mentioned already, some of these food concessions, especially if they're popular, but not even, you can't control a crowd right up under the little roof line. So we saw that the corner, the way it's angled, because it's just a box, like a container, is 12 feet from the curb, but you do have a light and a street sign in the way. So in terms of pedestrian traffic, and then you have people who will spill away, and of course with COVID, it's entirely different. But in normal circumstances, you're going to have a lot of push out into the sidewalk area, and many of us know what it's like to live in neighborhoods with typical restaurant dining on the sidewalks pre-COVID. And a lot of times there's very little space and very little enforcement, but very little space for pedestrians. And the restaurants kind of take advantage and slap in extra seats. And then suddenly you have people sticking out into the street. It gets a little sticky at times. And you find yourself walking in the bus lane off the curb. I've done that many times on DeKalb, for example. So what exactly were you expecting of that 12 feet from that corner? Again, the roof line protrudes over that 12 feet. That's just in the corner of the structure, but not the actual roof line. Well, I think it's going to become a little tight in a very busy place during the daytime. How do you propose to manage that? Is there any way to redesign the corner so that it doesn't protrude out that far?
I think because we have to back the kiosk up against the southern end of the park, and at the same time provide a certain amount of square footage. The narrowest point would be 12 feet. and then it opens back up again to, like 18 feet. But the other thing is that, with the tables and chairs, which right now, we haven't gone back and looked at that more closely. Parks always does not, any additional tables and chairs that are placed are per parks approval. So if there were any issues, whether it's the seating, whether it's, litter or I don't know, any other sort of, noxious thing, that's something that we address. And we have, 2 inspectors that go around to all of our sites, all of our concession sites, continually to check on these types of things. And then we also get feedback from the community, and then we try and address it, as Andrew is very familiar with.
One quick question, can the container be moved slightly back over the non-paved area so that it can be pulled away from the curbside and away from the public passage?
Yeah, it's a good suggestion. However, in the plan, which I didn't point out to you, there is a manhole cover, and I believe that's a Con Edison utility. And so that was partly why we moved the kiosk just a little bit, I guess that would be southeast, to avoid that.
Well, thank you, Ned, and thank you, Drew. I just wanted, Andrew just spoke a moment ago. Andrew, I don't think we have your last name.
Sorry about that. I can type it in the chat if that's easy for you.
No, it'd be easier for me if you spelled it.
Oh, sure. Coppola, Coppola.
That's right. I did hear it earlier. I apologize.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
You got it.
Sorry, Andrew, did you mention how much the city is making, or Parks is actually being paid for this on a monthly or annual basis?
I think you had quite a few questions.
Ms. Martin,
there.
actually, it is interesting, though. I'd like to know.
Yeah, I know, Ned. Let's go to someone else now to ask questions because the night is waning. I think you had 4 or 5 questions, so let's.
That's
give someone
fine.
else
Let's
a
move
chance.
along. You're right. Move along.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions, Carolyn?
Yes, I wanted to know, I'm a little perplexed by this process of the franchise because I thought that we did a process with the Parks Department letting out requests for proposals and not to have someone who's already inside decide he wants to give it to a friend. I'm sure, especially since we've had COVID, we have lots of people who want to, right here in Brooklyn, who want to do business and have a kiosk near Borough Hall. What's the process?
Right. So, like I said before, there's it's an assignment agreement process. It pretty much prevents us from having to shut down the operation. So if there's to keep the to avoid any gap in service. So we do vet, like I said, we do background checks on these companies to make sure their financials are in play, to make sure it's parks appropriate, and then that is reviewed by and approved by the commissioner. So I understand what you're saying, but there is already a process in play that was spelled out in their license agreement that was approved.
Well, I'm questioning why it would be approved by a commissioner and why it wouldn't go through the usual process of requests for proposals so that local people would have a chance at getting a contract, not a company from abroad.
Right, I got it. I can get back to you on that with a better answer.
Mr. Coppola, if I could just interject very quickly, sure. Caroline, to address your question, the proposed new owner is a husband-wife couple that is actually a local New York couple. They own a restaurant currently in Kips Bay, Manhattan. So they're not Brooklynites, but they're not strangers to New York City. I can drop more information in the chat.
Excuse me. Any other questions?
That doesn't help me though, but okay, go ahead. Go forward.
Well, Andrew, I think you said you might get back to us with some more information.
Sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Okay, that'd be great. You can send it to Taya, and she'll get it to us.
Can I ask a question? It's Irene Van Slyke.
Sure, Irene, go ahead.
When Joy made her presentation, she said the money, the income from the from this project will go into the general budget. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, any of the revenues that we receive from our concessions goes to the general fund of the city. And that's just, you know, like Parks doesn't have a discretionary fund. We don't have like our own little account. It goes to the city. So that I
Yeah,
was
so,
just,
so the Parks Department, even though it does all the work, you don't get, you could get it back, but you might not. I'm just.
Yeah. Yeah, in general, that is, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a few agreements where, you know, they have made it explicit that that money might go back to the maintenance of, you know, the East River Esplanade or something like that. But in general, this is the case.
Not that good a deal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Yeah, so
Suzanne?
I would like clarification. Yeah. I'd like to ask the question how much the city does earn on this. I think it probably was shared with us several years ago when this originally came around. But I would love to be reminded.
Andrew could
Yeah,
answer that.
I can get back to Taya with those numbers. I just would want to just double check with the accountants on that.
Okay.
And it would be it's the amounts are what we propose from NUCHAS. So that's what they would take over. It wouldn't be any new. Yeah.
I put a list of questions. Could you just answer some of those? I mean, I'm sure other people may want to know the answer as community members because it used to be open. You know, we used to all know, and I would love a double shop right there to get some coffee. You know, so there's some vendors. I know there's so many vendors that could be there, but we didn't. Nobody knows. How did you lock down a lease like that?
Deborah, can I invite you to turn on your video if you want to ask some questions? Would you like to do that?
Oh no, I don't want to turn on my video. This is not my meeting. I was in here for community garden members, and I'm really don't know what
Okay. All right. So, did I hear you say that you have a couple of questions you'd like to ask?
No, I put a list of questions in the chat, basically about did you do transit studies? Because there's so much. I live here and I get off there to get the train, and I'm always rushing. And there used to be a small stand there, and then it's you know bigger, and then there's seniors getting off the bus right there to get into the train station. There's a lot of handicapped people that have transit spaces there that are nowhere, you know, in the city available, you know, because they're all in that area. So once you do all of this, I mean, are you considering all of the mass transit, all of the people, the working class people, the proletariats that come in there trying to transfer to get to work under the amount of stress that we already have? And there, all of the questions are in the chat, and usually they do, you know, questions like this with the community so they can measure all of this before making such decisions. That's the way it used to be. So all my questions are in the chat, and I don't need to say anything else. You answered some of them, at least.
Thank you. Joy, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I'm trying to just follow a little bit in the chat what some of the main points of the questions are, but got it. Okay. Yeah, I think we can answer to the traffic. I believe we did examine that, and that's something that PDC had raised the question of. I think your comment about the working class and the people there having free access is fair, and I believe this kiosk, as it has in the past, would still provide for any passerby. We would like to offer additional public seating, but we'd have to vet that with the Public Design Commission. So it's sort of like balancing, can we offer tables and chairs and not get in the way of walking traffic?
And ADA vehicles and moms and strollers and all of the stuff that's going to be transported right there. All of it at rush hour. That's when you measure it, at rush hour in the morning. And as it decreases during the 4 hours, as it increases, you know, back up into the evening rush hour. Have you measured all of that? Because so many people transfer right there. All of Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn comes right there to transfer. So I hope you guys, you know, because more people, I see seniors all the time that refuse to cross the street because there's bikers or scooters and nobody's, you know, looking at any of this, and it's becoming more dangerous and more dangerous as people, you know, want to make money. And I get that too. But, you know, for the people that are necessary, think about them, because that's the way the city has been operated. That's the way it's been. That's why it is as great as it is. So, you know.
Yeah, I think we're trying to hold all of those you know, interests and needs you know, whenever we're doing anything with parks, and it's always, you know, that sort of push and pull about what how can we put a kiosk that will thrive monetarily versus provide an amenity for the public and, you know, not cause any sort of public safety concern. I think that's something, you know, all the things that you raised are something that, you know, this is one additional important step as part of the approval process, is to get everybody's input and everybody's eyes on these designs. And, you know, we're working with consultants, we're working with engineers, landscape architects, and we're all trying to look at this and take everybody's viewpoints into account. And so I do appreciate you sharing your concerns. I do consider myself one of the you know, many people that have to make it, you know, when I used to go to work back and forth and you know, during rush hour. So I do empathize with what you're describing.
I have some large projects under my belt. That's why I can ask you these questions. Like Second Avenue Subway, I can ask you because of that reason. So, you know, just a community member asking on behalf of the community. So,
Great.
because, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's it.
Zoller Gringer, we have two
Yes.
additional questions in chat. The first one is, what is the cost of a meal under the doner kebab price structure? And the second one from Kevin Duggan, when is this scheduled to open for business, and when did the previous concessionaire Nucha's close up shop?
So for the meal, I can ask Eunice for more updated because I'm sure that had changed. We last saw that a while back. The second question.
When it
The
might
second
be
question is,
opening.
when is
When
this scheduled to open, and when did Nucha's close?
George, you want to speak to the timeline?
Yeah, so the next step would be that we need to get Public Design Commission final approval. We'd have to go to their board and present. And then following that, we would apply for the building permit from DOB, from the Department of Buildings. So all of that would take time. So let's say optimistically, with construction, you're looking at maybe early fall, and that's speaking optimistically. And, you know, I don't even know what the dining guidelines will be by that time.
And the second half of that question is, when did Nucha's close?
It was around, I want to say late September, early October of 2019.
Any other final questions for these two presenters?
So what's your timeline for starting and having this up and running? When's the first day of operation supposed to be?
we don't have that set date yet. It all depends on how construction and the next set of approvals go.
Oh, so you still have to get community board approval
No.
and all that, or how you have to do that still, or you're done with that process?
We have to get Public Design Commission approval, and then we have to go to the Department of Buildings for our building permit.
Okay.
And we move this forward. We are always going to have additional questions. It's time for us to move forward. I have a whole bunch that I need to share, and it's after 8 o'clock.
Did you say you
Please.
had questions, or did you have something else?
Not about you go into open session after this.
Okay. Yes. Well, all right. First, thank you for everyone. Thank you for answering those questions. I know there were quite a few of them, Joy and Andrew, so we appreciate that. Is there any other committee business? And as Mr. Dew so kindly pointed out, we are after the 8 o'clock hour. So I feel like Brian Williams.
I'm just going to mention, Barbara.
Yes.
And I think maybe table the sessions that between the last meeting and this meeting, Kyler Gore Park and Green Playground. They were both very well attended, in particular Kyler Gore, by those communities, well run. And I know Barbara was at one, and Taya, and maybe some others too. But maybe next meeting.
Barbara or Deborah? I'm Deborah. Barbara or Deborah?
Suzanne, I'm so glad you mentioned those because they were on my mind, and you're right. They were really very well run and both very interesting to hear what the community.
Yes, and pencil for June before let's come back with the. Hopefully, they'll be ready to do that, and we can download the committee more fully next month.
All right, I'm going to turn this over to Community Forum, which is the last item on our agenda for this evening. But Suzanne, I just wanted to ask you to be at the ready because my connection is giving me a problem again. But so if it happens again, I may disappear or I may be quiet. So John, I know you wanted to speak. You had some things to bring to our attention.
Yes.
What?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to ask that we get an analysis from the city on how these carts are competing with the restaurants that have to pay taxes and everything else. That is actually an issue that we are going to confront, so we should get ahead of it if at all possible. The other thing I wanted to ask is how far is this proposal for a sidewalk cafe from the Columbus statue that your Parks Department discussed in Cadman Park not too long ago? There is some kind of aura that's going over Cadman Park right about this point that we should try to get a handle on. The other thing I wanted to mention, Barbara, is early on we talked about the need for cardboard boxes. And the Hill Apartment Owners Corporation has 12 buildings, and we put garbage out, which includes a lot of cardboard boxes. I need to get a handle on that and whether you would want to pick them up. The Myrtle Avenue Business Improvement District also has a storage room in the Brooklyn Navy Yard that can be made available to hold whatever supplies are required for those pop-up parks. The pop-up parks, I heard Farragut mentioned. I just want to make sure that it includes Ingersoll and Whitman in that whole park experience thing. We look at the Fort Greene housing project as a unit, even though there are 3 separate divisions in that development.
They were particularly interested in coming here with the idea that they would be partnering with those 3 projects.
Okay.
So thank you for everything you had to say, John. I appreciate it. And we'll get back to you.
Chair
when we
Zoller
got-
Gringer, I believe Ms. Boykin was trying to.
I was just saying when John said that Myrtle Avenue bid has space, that is not true. We moved this Sunday to a smaller space, but there is space in the basement of Fort Greene Park. Fort Greene SNAP, and I'm also the chair of programming at Fort Greene Park, and we have trailer space. You just have to connect with myself or Maggie Burke. I'm sure she's been here before.
We know Dave Parker.
Yep, or Dave Barker.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we made some progress.
All right, terrific. I
That's why we
appreciate
have
that.
these. Bring everybody in, we get faster solutions.
That's right. Thank you. Anyone else have anything for community forum this evening?
I would like to mention something. Suzanne Quint had asked me to attend the meeting. Hi, Suzanne. It's Richard. Are you there? She's looking. She sees me with a mask most of the time. At any rate, I had mentioned to her that I.
Richard.
Yes. Oh, hi.
I was going to say, happy for you to welcome and glad for you to. We put you topic in. Definitely
Ms. Quint, we're losing you. Ms. Quint, we're losing you. Could you maybe turn off your video feed so we can hear you?
I think she did.
Oh, her video died.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. Oh, she's gone. Oh, somebody else is there. Well, should I go on?
Yes, please go ahead, Richard.
The reason why she
Welcome.
asked me, thank you. The reason why she asked me, and this is a great meeting to be at with this community gardens. I am a citizen pruner and a street tree captain. I was trained by Trees New York to prune trees. I just passed my test today, by the way, for my renewal license.
Congratulations.
Very happy about that. Yeah, so I got another 5 years. At any rate, the pruning, the New York Trees New York trains citizens to prune trees in their community. So we sort of look at the community garden as the whole area. I'm the captain, the tree street captain for the North Heights, Fulton Landing, Dumbo, Vinegar Hill, and Farragut. So I prune all those trees. If you walk up Washington Street and you notice the beautiful canopy that's there, I did that. That's my work, that whole thing. So I enjoy doing it. It's great. If anyone is interested in becoming a tree street steward, actually either a citizen pruner or a street steward, I'll leave the links on the chat box, and you can contact those people. In the meantime, if you have a tree in Dumbo or Vinegar Hill, I can actually prune anywhere in the city of New York, all 5 boroughs. It's quite exciting. With the Trees New York, it's not only the pruning, but they also teach you how to recognize when a tree is in distress, either from lack of water or the soil is too compact, or disease or insects. So there's a training process. Then there's an examination every first time and every 5 years to keep you on your toes. As for the Parks Department program, the stewardship program for street trees, that you actually take over the whole, not only the tree itself, but the bed that the tree is in. You take care of that. You mulch it, you water it, you can plant things there, try to keep animals off of it as best you can. One of the projects that I wanted to start here in Dumbo before this coronavirus was to have the kids in the neighborhood adopt a tree and name it. Because I name my trees. Every tree in this neighborhood has a name. It's a personal thing to me. All right. I couldn't tell you if it was an oak or a maple. I can tell you its name though. All right. And that's the important thing. You develop a relationship with these things. And again, with this community garden, it opened me up to this whole thing that I when I walk down Water Street, or I walk up Front Street, or I go down Old Fulton Street, or I go up Hicks a little bit, to know that those trees are being at least cared for or noticed by me. Noticed in terms of if they're okay, if they're healthy. It's like having a good neighbor. And the same thing with you and your gardens. It's like, you know, you're good neighbors to the trees and the plants, and it helps everything. So if you're interested, please follow up, contact. It's a great course, great people. You travel if you want to different parks. I've been to parks all over the city here, helping with Jason. You know, Jason, I'm sorry, Jason Stein. He's sort of in charge of that program. So a wonderful man, and very active and aggressive. So thank you for allowing me to participate. I really think you're all doing a great job. I've seen these little community parks. The one over in Vinegar Hill, I think that was Christopher Frank who started that years ago. I don't know if he's still involved. He had a heart attack, but a really good guy. His father, Alan Frank, is a homeowner in the neighborhood, a building owner in the neighborhood, good friend of mine. At any rate, that's it. I don't know what more to say. It's
Thank you.
Great activity. Instead of going to the gym, get yourself a handsaw and make a friend of a tree.
We thank you, Richard. And now that you've been to a meeting, we expect to see you here again.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Soon. Our next meeting is March 15th for everyone on the call tonight. Anything else very quickly for community forum? We're really running late at this point. Taya, do you see anything else? Okay. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn? Andrew? Carolyn? Okay. All in favor? All right. Please be well and be safe. And
speak to Taya. I had a quick question about why my name never appears on community board Zooms, whereas any other Zoom I do, my name is there. But
it doesn't have my
offline
name
about
either.
that.
It doesn't have my name, and it's very
Oh, I
hard
think
to
it has
change the
someone.
name on these things. That's the problem.
Pardon?
It's very hard to change. It's not an easy fix like on Zoom to change the name.
I'm happy to address that. I'm going to stop the recording now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.